From Governor's Comedy Club in Levittown, this is a special edition of Sports Bash presented by Ticketbash.com. Ticketbash.com, where memories are made affordable and where you'll always never pay a service fee. Check out upcoming flyaways, including Jets versus Dolphins in Miami, Giants versus Falcons in Atlanta. Sports Bash is also presented by Ryan Anthony's Heating and Air Conditioning Service, keeping Long Island warm for over 18 years, serving their customers in Nassau and Suffolk with pride, honesty, and integrity. For more information, visit www.liboilers.com. Sports Bash is brought to you by the Embassy Diner, located at 4280 Hempstead Turnpike in Bethpage. Every customer is considered family at the Embassy Diner. Mention Sports Bash, get a free dessert with your meal. By Living Legends, memorabilia and collectibles in Rockville Center, Long Island's go-to store for sports, entertainment, and political memorabilia since 1996. They're also available for charity auctions. Give Warren a call at 516-826-4000. By Bearcat Billing Service, your trusted partner in medical billing. Experience the Bearcat way, personal, professional, and tailored to your needs. Give Gary a call at 516-796-2400 and tell him Sports Bash sent you. By the Marty Lyons Foundation, the official charity of Sports Bash Media. For more information, go to martylyonsfoundation.org. And by Collaborate Studios, a content marketing production facility. For more info, call them at 516-509-8277. Well, hi again, everyone, and welcome to Sports Bash. I'm Peter Schwartz on this Monday, a special Monday edition of the show. 516-465-3990 is the number to call, and make sure you are subscribing to Gov's Comedy Club podcast on YouTube so you can follow along on YouTube and comment if you're, a little bashful to call a radio show and a little inside, radio here. I'm going to, pull up the Governor's Comedy Club podcast page just so I can follow along with everybody else on the chat if you'd like to chat with us on YouTube, or you can call us at 516-465-3990. Later on in the show, I'll be joined by Pro Football Newsroom contributor and UFL podcast host Zach Keilman to talk about the announcement today that the United Football League is going to expand. We'll also chat about the upcoming Arena Football 1 season, so we're excited about that. We'll talk to Zach about both of those things, and we'll also check out the Sports Bash Media poll question of the day. Giant fans, you'll want to be a part of that, so listen in a little bit later on in the show. This segment is presented by the Embassy Diner in Bethpage, where every customer is considered family. The Embassy Diner, located at 4280 Hempstead Turnpike in Bethpage. Mention Sports Bash, get a free dessert with your meal, and I'm sure that Gus and the staff at Embassy Diner is going to be all revved up for Thanksgiving week with a lot of good stuff going on over there at the Embassy Diner, so you want to check that out. I am relatively sick and tired of opening shows about the Jets and Giants. I mean, this was not supposed to be the season that we're having, at least from a Jets perspective. I thought the Giants, if things broke their way, could challenge for a playoff spot. So I'm mildly surprised at what has happened. I'm even more surprised at the dysfunction that has taken place with the Giants, because that's something you expect with the Jets, and certainly they've had plenty of that this year. The Giants, though, the dysfunction has really been eye-opening, to say the least, and that continued again this week, this past week, with Daniel Jones being demoted to fourth string, ultimately asked for his release, was granted it, and then they go out and lay another egg at MetLife Stadium yesterday, 30-7, to the Buccaneers. And, as much as we have killed the Jets here on the show, and every sports show in town has killed the Jets, there have been times where the Giants probably have to be so enamored with the fact that the Jets have gotten all this negative attention and people kind of forgot about the Giants. But that's no more. I mean, if this is a battle between the amount, I came up with a word last week, and it went viral on one of our clips. I came up with, level of suckness. If you remember me bringing that up about the Jets the other day. Like, there's a level of suckness that a team has, and then you have the Jets with their level of suckness. And the Giants probably saw that clip and said, you know what? We need to have Peter talk about our level of suckness, too, on Sports Bash. And I still think the Jets are up here and the Giants were down here at the beginning of the season. The Giants have caught up. They've definitely caught up with the suckness level. And you can trace this back to the offseason. I know the last thing that Giants owner John Mara wanted to be involved with was Hard Knocks. And the Giants agreed to be on the Hard Knocks offseason edition. And you saw those clips where, John Mara was worried about Saquon not getting re-signed, but ultimately signing with the Eagles. And what has happened? He signed with the Eagles. And right now, as we speak on this Monday, the Monday before Thanksgiving, when you start talking about the MVP race in the National Football League, I think the discussion starts and ends with Saquon Barkley. With all due respect to, Josh Allen in Buffalo and Patrick Mahomes and some other guys around the league, I think you look at what Saquon Barkley has brought to the Eagles, especially with the way it ended with the Giants. And he does not get re-signed by the Giants, and he goes to their NFC East rivals. And what a show he put on last night. Did you see that on Sunday Night Football? 255 yards and 2 touchdown runs of 70 yards. One was 70, one was 72. And you don't think John Mara is sitting at home after he watched his team get their ass kicked by the Buccaneers? You don't think John Mara, home watching that game on television, threw something through a window or up against his wall in his house? I mean, you got to be kidding me that they were so enamored with Daniel Jones after the playoff appearance 2 years ago and the playoff win, and they felt compelled to give him $40 million a year and re-sign him, and then they turn around, they don't have that money for Saquon Barkley. They let him walk out the door. And there's this, there's a feeling also is, do you really give a running back that amount of money? Because you can find running backs in the draft all over the place. Look, the Jets, got Breece Hall in the 3rd round. So to a certain extent, you can't really kill them on that. But again, Joe Shane and Brian Daboll are ultimately responsible for the personnel decisions. And it was their choice to go and lock up Daniel Jones. Now he's not a Giant anymore. And they let Saquon Barkley go down I-95 to Philadelphia, and he's ripping it up there. So yesterday if you're a Giants fan, yesterday had to just absolutely suck. Watch your team get blown out at home by the Buccaneers, and then you saw Baker Mayfield doing the I'm doing Johnny Manziel money thing. No, here's the Tommy DeVito. I had to channel my inner Italian, which I'm Jewish, but there's a little Italian, I guess, in me. So that Tommy Cutlets, Tommy DeVito thing. So you saw Baker Mayfield doing the Tommy Cutlets thing, mocking it. And if that wasn't enough, you go home and you watch, or you stay at home if you're watching the Giant game on TV, and you're watching the Eagles last night and the Rams, and you see Saquon Barkley go to town on the Rams. It's just unbelievable how things have gone just totally kaput for the Giants this year. And it's interesting because when you have, Shane and Daboll come in their first year, they make the playoffs, they win a playoff game. Last year, they don't make the playoffs, things fall apart. So what do? You bring back for the 3rd year because you had one good year and one bad year. Now you got to give them a chance to get things back on track. And I think things are obviously worse this year than last year because now you don't have a quarterback. Your running back that you drafted 2nd overall is now an MVP candidate in Philadelphia. Your defense is soft. And the Giants are left with even more questions than they had at the end of last year. So I think when it's all said and done now, I think there's enough bad feeling amongst Giant fans now in the Giants organization. I think they now have to go back and start anew again. Because I don't know how you sell the fans on bringing back Joe Shane and Brian Daboll when the man that they let walk out the door is doing what he's doing in Philadelphia. So you have that nonsense going on with the Giants. And then, of course, when you think about nonsense, you don't have to look any further than the Jets. And what they have been up to this year. We've talked about it ad nauseum. that it all starts at the top with Woody Johnson. The Athletic story comes out about all the stuff that he put Joe Douglas through. And we're finding out more stuff about last week at practice. Joe Douglas is sitting there at practice talking to Jeff Ulbrich, and the helicopter shows up with Woody Johnson, and Joe Douglas jokes with Jeff Ulbrich, the interim head coach, saying, well, if they pull me off the field, it's been nice working with you. What exactly happened? They pulled him off the field, and he got fired by Woody Johnson. And now we find out today that the Jets have started their search for a new general manager and a new head coach. And the more things change, the more they stay the same. Because when you think about how Woody Johnson has conducted business in his 25 years, you would think in 25 years of being an owner in the NFL that he has spent enough time paying attention in owners' meetings and meeting people around the league that he wouldn't have to go hire a headhunter to go find a general manager. And we went down this road before. We went down this road before with the Jets hiring John Idzik after they fired Mike Tannenbaum. We went down this road before with Mike McCagnon coming on as GM, and that didn't work out. You have these shotgun marriages between the general managers and the head coaches, and it just never works. And now we find out today that Woody is up to his old tricks again. He has hired and if I'm just wrong on the actual complete title on this, I apologize, but it's the 33rd Group, and it's an organization that includes former Jets general manager Mike Tannenbaum and former NFL general manager Rick Spielman. And this firm has been hired by the New York Jets to help them in their search for a new GM and a new head coach. Now, you hear Mike Tannenbaum's name. I don't know if he'll be a candidate to come back as the GM. I do think Rex Ryan is a legitimate candidate to be the head coach because he's talked so much about it that you have to wonder, has he already spoken to Woody Johnson about this? And there'll be some names that you'll see come up for the GM job, and you just hope they do the GM search, hire the GM, and let the GM hire the head coach. I mean, if I can ask Woody Johnson for one thing, and one thing only as a diehard Jets fan, hire the best possible person and let that guy stay out of the way. Just run for the hills. Go to your suite and leave the GM alone and let him do his job. Let him hire the head coach. I just have no confidence that's going to happen because now you've hired a firm that's identified that they're going to help out with the GM and the head coach. So if you hire a GM, what do you need help from a firm to hire the head coach for? If you're hiring a competent general manager, and God knows we don't know if that's going to be possible, well, who's going to take this job? Now, somebody will ultimately take it because if you're a football executive and you aspire to be a GM, you got to get a first job somewhere. And the Jets are always a place you get your first job because it doesn't last forever. But just, again, why do you need to hire an outside firm? You spent 25 years in the NFL as an owner. What are you doing at the owners' meetings? Going to the pool? Playing golf? Getting phone calls from Trump about going back to the UK as ambassador? What are you doing? I mean, we've had some awful sports owners in this town, in this area. Awful sports owners. And when you hear about everything that has gone on this year with the Jets, I think we have a new leader in the clubhouse. All time. He's got to be the worst owner ever in New York, New Jersey sports history. And you're going to bring up, the Wilpons with the Mets. But hey, they had some good years. It's not like they were awful all those years. They had their faults, and Steve Cohen is a breath of fresh air for the Mets. And Islander fans will certainly bring up, hey, what about John Spano? He didn't have any money. Yeah, but he somehow still managed, not only did he manage to take control of the Islanders with no money, but he extended the cable deal. Without that cable money, the Islanders would be in Quebec or Kansas City right now. So I can't put John Spano in as the worst. People want to beat up on Charles Wang, and if it wasn't for Charles Wang, the Islanders would have left too. And he was the first one to identify the Belmont Park site for an arena, let John Ledecky and Scott Malkin know about it. And that's why the Islanders are there now. So you can't put Charles Wang in that boat. It's Woody Johnson. Come on, man. They were talking about building a stadium on the west side of Manhattan, getting away from the Giants, finally. And he knew from the start that wasn't going to happen. And he went crawling back to the Giants. Yeah, we'll go in on that new stadium at the Meadowlands. MetLife Stadium, my ass. It's Giant Stadium 2.0. Come on. So, until something drastic changes, nothing is going to change. I have zero faith in Woody Johnson turning this team around. And what do the fans have to do to fight back? Well, listen, I never want to tell somebody what to do with their money. But if you're unhappy, don't buy season tickets. Now, if you're locked in on a PSL, I'm sorry, I don't know what to tell you about that. But it's a joke, man. It really is. And this usually after a losing season, it's the time where I start to think about, where the Jets going to draft. And I start looking at the mock drafts and see who they're going to draft. We don't even have a general manager and head coach. And really the first time that the Jets are going to go into the offseason where, as a fan, how do you have any confidence that it's ever going to get any better under this ownership? You don't. I hope I'm wrong. I hope that maybe Woody comes to his senses and says, you know what I've done is not working, because all he's got to do is look at Madison Square Garden and look at how Jim Dolan, with his reign of terror for a long time, he finally got it with the Rangers. He let the Rangers GM do the work and build a team. They got to the finals. They've had good success in recent years. And then what he finally did, he finally hired a competent person to run the Knicks, and look what the Knicks are doing right now. So, yes, it's possible for a dumbass owner to come to his senses and fix it. Until I see it, I have no confidence that's going to happen with Woody Johnson. I just don't. I mean, the only thing really I have to look forward to as a Jet fan, there's two things. On December 13th, ESPN's got the 30 for 30 on the Sack Exchange, and we are working to get a member of the Sack Exchange on the show in the next couple of weeks. We could have a member of the defense in studio, not on the Sack Exchange, but a defensive player on the team in studio. We're working on it. We're efforting it. So that's coming up, and I'll be excited to watch that. And, of course, I'll look forward to the Marty Lyons Foundation draft party because I host it every year, and it's so much fun. And I'm starting to think of what my joke is going to be at the beginning, because usually I come up with something, I welcome everybody to the draft party, and I'm thinking something this year, welcome to the 2025 Marty Lyons Foundation NFL draft party, otherwise known as the night of false hope for Jets fans. How does that sound? Tony, you like that?
I like that.
You like that, right? I'll come up with something clever that night. But I like that only because we're surrounded by so many great people and it's a fun event. But, again, over the Jets draft, we'll see if it works out. I'm just tired of having a bad attitude about it. At least, again, this year, and I've tweeted about this, and I've talked about it, at least my son's college football team gave me happiness. Bradley's WestCon team with a big win Saturday in the bowl game. We'll talk about that later in the show. And, of course, I talked about this as well. My younger son, Jared, coached the flag football team that got to the Super Bowl. So at least my football weekends weren't a complete mess with the Jets. I have to tell you something, too, and then I'm going to go to a break because we're going to welcome in our guest. Yesterday had to be the most relaxing NFL Sunday I've had in a long time because the Jets didn't play. They couldn't rip my heart out yesterday. And I sat on the couch. We watched a little bit of the Giant game. We flipped over to the Washington-Dallas game. I'm sitting back on the couch like this, And I'm like, oh, this is relaxing. Have lunch. Jets aren't playing. That's great. It was a blast yesterday. That's what I got on this Monday before Thanksgiving. That's what we got. We're going to step aside for a second. Coming up on Sports Bash, I'll be joined by Pro Football Newsroom contributor and UFL podcast host Zach Keilman to talk about the announcement today that the United Football League is going to expand. We'll also chat about the upcoming Arena Football 1 season. That is all coming up when Sports Bash returns right after this. Hi, I'm Peter Schwartz.
And I'm Vinny Tickets.
We want to take a moment to talk about our fantastic sponsor, the Embassy Diner.
Embassy Diner has been a beloved staple in the restaurant industry for over 50 years. And the great thing about it is when you walk through the door, you're not a customer, you are family. Every visit promises to be filled with warmth, love, and respect.
And here's an extra treat. If you mention Sports Bash during your visit, you enjoy a free dessert on the Embassy Diner.
Come on down to the Embassy Diner, where great food and great company are always on the menu.
Visit the Embassy Diner, located at 4280 Hempstead Turnpike in Bethpage. Hi, I'm Peter.
Living Legends Memorabilia and Collectibles is the best place to find autographed entertainment and sports memorabilia. We guarantee the authenticity of each and every item in our shop to provide you with quality collectibles anytime you browse our inventory. Our memorabilia includes autographed photos, sports equipment, jerseys, hats, and other paraphernalia from current athletes and legendary sports stars. If you prefer the entertainment industry, we have signed posters, albums, and photographs from classic movie stars and today's celebrities. To give back to our community, we participate in fundraising auctions for local charities. Call us today to request a specific autograph, find a special gift for someone else, or schedule an event. Living Legends Memorabilia and Collectibles.
Welcome back to Sports Bash, presented by TicketBash.com. I'm Peter Schwartz. 516-465-3990 is the number to call here on the show. Make sure you are subscribing to Governor's Comedy Club podcasts so you can follow along and chat with us if you don't want to call the show. That option is available to you. The segment of Sports Bash is presented by Ryan Anthony's Heating and Air Conditioning Service, keeping Long Island warm for over 18 years, serving their customers in Nassau and Suffolk with pride, honesty, and integrity. For more information, visit www.liboilers.com. You know, the professional football season doesn't only take place during the fall with the NFL and also to a certain extent with the CFL, but spring football is still very much a viable option here in North America. The XFL and the USFL merging last year to become the United Football League. You've got arena football still going strong here in North America. And on the line with us to talk about a big announcement today by the United Football League is Zach Keilman. He is a contributor for Pro Football Newsroom. He's also the host of the UFL podcast. And Zach joins us here on Sports Bash. Zach, it's Peter. How are you?
Hey, Peter, I'm great. I hope you can hear me here, but I am doing fantastic. I am glad to be with you today. And my goodness, there is so much going on in the world of alternative foot and spring football, Peter. It's nuts. It's blowing up.
It's unbelievable. You know, let me start with this before we talk about the United Football League announcement today. And this is an argument that I have, you know, and I work at WFAN, and I've worked at big radio stations and networks, and you deal with a lot of fans all over the place. And it's always, spring football, nobody cares about it, nobody watches it. When I worked for the New York Dragons for 8 years in the Arena Football League, I always got, you know, mocked for it. Who cares about that? It's stupid. It's nothing. It's still paychecks for everybody, whether you're players, coaches, trainers, broadcasters, journalists. It was still a paycheck. And look, it's, you know, football, there's more than 53 good players for every NFL team that want to still continue to play football. So I have always felt, and this has been my argument with people, that spring football could be a viable option because you have so many good football players that can't make it to the NFL. They just miss out. And there are these opportunities, especially in markets who don't have the NFL. And that's why I think I've never been more optimistic about the future of spring football than it is right now because of the people who are running it.
Oh, without a doubt, Peter. I love that aspect that it gives other opportunities for high-class athletes to go and put up film and to, at least get a shot back, or if anything, just play football and continue a good career. The thing that always I've found interesting is after college, it seems like we kind of just forget about a lot of athletes in that scene. They get a lot of praise for being great college athletes for their schools, but all of a sudden when we go beyond that 4 or 5 years, maybe now 6 now, given how the scene is anymore, it's just, they disappear, and it's like long for them. It's like, no, there's another opportunity. You got another pathway to make a name for yourself. There's legends now coming up in this sport, especially UFL, the USFL, XFL last several years that are really good players at that level and have at least gotten shots to go to camp. Some, as we've seen, have stuck and are making stories even this year in the NFL right now.
It was always great for me to be, with the Dragons and the original, the old AFL, and you broadcast games and you do stories about guys who are making a name for themselves in that league, and then they wind up getting those opportunities in the NFL or in the CFL or whatever it might be. And it's just so heartwarming to see that the dream doesn't have to die, whether you're a player, a coach, as I mentioned before, a PR person, a broadcaster, a writer, whatever it is. Your dream doesn't have to die because the NFL says no over and over again. You still have that opportunity to be in professional football. And that's why I think I'm surprised that more people don't have a better attitude about it.
It's hard to say. I think one thing we as a country have noticed is that when it comes to football, the NFL, it's very much, we're so used to having that one top league, and then college is so good across the board, I think, in terms of not only play for a lot of the higher profile schools, but really good culture of football there too. So a lot of people, I think, accept college football is just that level below, and then we move up to the NFL, and the NFL out of the main leagues, if we're talking NHL, NBA, MLB, it's really the only one that doesn't have a farm system. MLS even has a farm system in the way they do USL, at least in some regard, and MLS Next Pro that they're doing. The NFL is really not the only one that doesn't do that. And so people aren't used to it, I think. The hope is you have to have something stick around too, which, as you and I may know, and especially if you're talking AF1 alone or AFL alone back in the day, it's got to stay and last. And, that hasn't happened yet. Hopefully it does now. Yeah,
hopefully it's back on track forever. We'll get to the Arena Football League and Arena Football 1 a little bit, but let's talk about the big announcement today from the United Football League. As I mentioned at the top, so the XFL and the USFL merged last year into the United Football League, and you've got the USFL Conference and the XFL Conference, and out of that merger, some teams stayed and some teams from both leagues went away. So now you've got 8 teams in St. Louis, Arlington, Birmingham, Houston, Memphis, San Antonio, St. Louis, and D.C. And now the announcement comes today from the United Football League that they are opening up the door for expansion. They're going to welcome expansion inquiries from other markets. And I think, when you think about all the spring football leagues, whether you can go back to the original XFL that I was a part of in 2001 with the New York, New Jersey Hitmen, and you can go to some of the other spring leagues that popped up. It just never lasted. And now for the first time, you see that stability. The merger between these two leagues really solidified things, solidified how they were going to run this league. And now they have opened the door for expansion. It is a great day for people who work in, follow, and are a fan of spring football.
It was a really encouraging sign today. I think that's what's got a lot of people even more thrilled about this announcement. There weren't even teams announced. There weren't even markets announced. The reason why you have so much buzz around this is not only that you're going to see more markets, but the fact that folks that have been following this scene, and it's a much more constrained community right now, is growing. But those in that community that have been through all that thick and thin, XFL, USFL, even farther back if you want to talk, and even now recent memories of XFL 2020, they're just wanting to see growth. That's a growth metric right there. They're saying, hey, we've got a stable group. We got a stable business model. We feel, we got to work on they do have to work on a few things. They've addressed that too in offhand interviews, and they have a full season where they're not merging this year, which is great. But it shows that both companies that are main stakeholders in this, Redbird Capital and Fox Sports, they're very much invested. That's a very big investment statement right there. If you're saying we're ready to move and put more teams in by 2026, and according to Mike Mitchell at Sports Illustrated, just kind of following up on some things while we were talking all day, they're looking at there's talk about 2027. They get up to 12 teams if they can.
But the first wave would come in 2026 because they've already announced the plans for 2025. So the first wave of expansion, I would guess 2 teams would come in 2026.
That seems to be the common theme. They're not going to be able to do anything. It's too late in the cycle for 2025. They're still needing to get a schedule out right now, and they're still finishing up some venue knickknacks here and there on trying to get that piece together, because they do have to work with different tenants at those venues to get the schedule ready. But there's a good runway to 2026. You can now, while the season's going, you can have that conversation with executives to start talking to communities and who comes and presents to you as the best possible case for you to go to possibly 1 to 2. You want to do an even number. You don't want to do an odd number with scheduling. It makes it a little bit more chaotic. So two definitely is the leading one right now as of today.
Zach Keilman is my guest. He is a Pro Football Newsroom contributor and host of the UFL podcast, and he joins us here on Sports Bash to talk about the big announcement from the United Football League today that they are going to expand. So, as I mentioned before, the XFL lost some teams, the USFL lost some teams as a result of the merger. What are you hearing? What's the scuttlebutt? Who would be interested in coming back in? Here in New York, we had the original New York, New Jersey Hitmen in the XFL. Then we had the New York, New Jersey, Gladiators in the reincarnation of the XFL. Then the New Jersey Generals, although they never played a game in New Jersey, they were at a host city. I think they were in Canton for a while. I think there was another market that hosted them too, but they were one of the teams that didn't get brought back. Does New York, New Jersey have a shot at one of these expansion teams? What do you think the league is thinking about where to go?
So I think what they're looking for most, it was kind of highlighted in their press release on this, but I agree with this beyond the speak of the PR team. And it's that they're looking for fan bases, I think, that are heavily engaged, want a new sport or at least a sport for their market to crave. Kind of that mid-major market, I feel like, is the best one a lot of people target. St. Louis, it was a case where, they needed someone filled in, but it's a big city, so something like that. And you can't get to St. Louis every time, but the hopes are they're getting something like maybe a DC is more of their type of attendance, where they can get like that 10 to 15,000 mark range of attendance right out the gate. They have someone that, you can get into market really quick and kind of get invested. New York, New Jersey is going to be a little tough, because the other element to this is going to be, is your venue affordable, and can you get a good venue rate as well? This applies any of the alternative leagues. The NFL, it's a little different. You got tons of monies coming in. Here, they're getting more partnerships and they're growing, but they also still have to be a little sensible on where they go. So New York, New Jersey seems a little less likely. Some of the ones I've kind of just been brainstorming with folks today, just thinking about some of the past relationships that they've had. So New Orleans apparently was close to the finish line of getting a home spot in the USFL. Remember, they were playing in a hub over in Birmingham. They were in talks to go somewhere and play at a USL stadium in New Orleans. Canton, Ohio was a very good partner to the USFL as well.
That's a great stadium. That's a thing. My family and I were at the Hall of Fame game last year for the Jets and Browns. My son was in USA football program for a while. He played a couple of games there. That place is phenomenal.
I love Tom Benson Stadium, and there was actually a recent report that came out. So they have the Hall of Fame Village on there, and that massive campus they're trying to build up. It's been through some tough times, but one thing that I think does bode well to where I'm going to keep an eye on Canton is they lost a massive revenue stream when the USFL had to move away from Canton in this merger. And just thinking about how you get deals done to get teams in sports, I would not be shocked if I am a resident or any city official of Canton, Ohio, thinking about how that experience was with the league those 2 years with the USFL and Fox Sports. I'd be reaching out immediately hearing this, trying to see if there's any possibility. You can draw people from Cleveland. You've got that Hall of Fame Village backdrop. Again, it was a really good venue, and it got people coming out for just neutral site games. Imagine if you get a team brand there, and from what I understand, at least one of the UFL owns the one of the Canton Bulldogs marks. So, it's kind of hinting at something. Not saying that's the team, but there's possibilities there. Otherwise, fully commit to the West Coast, but to do that, I argue you need to do 2 teams in the West Coast to make it logistically make sense. You can't do a one-off. That's too expensive for travel costs to do that and then pick an East Coast team. You just got to do it in one foul swoop. So I think that's coming. I just don't know if it's 2026 that they'll do it,
Yeah, my last thing on New York going into the UFL, I mean, I agree with you. The venue situation is very, very tricky. It's always been tricky when you have these niche sports and alternative sports, as you talked about before. To me, the venue that would make sense if they were to want to come back to New York, New Jersey, And I guess this would be up to the Red Bulls if they wanted to allow an American football team to play on their beautiful field at Red Bull Arena. But Red Bull Arena to me would be the venue that makes the most sense. It's 25,000 seats. It's a beautiful place. It's an outstanding venue to see a sporting event. That to me would be the venue that they should look at if they wanted to come back to New York, New Jersey.
And I agree with you as well. MLS stadiums have that kind of not too spread out fan base and crowd with the size. You get about that 20,000-ish, 25 for Red Bull's case type of size where it doesn't look bad on TV. It's more personal. You see that with DC at Audi Field. It's a wonderful place to go, and it's one of the best spots that I've talked to fans about when coming to a UFL
I
game.
like that the cup snake, the beer snake was pretty cool. So
You have the lemons. I mean, they got a whole culture stuff going on there. It's wonderful. It's a perfect UFL venue. And it's not even doesn't have credence. Back in the original XFL days of 2.0 in 2020, there were rumors while they were waiting to finish up COVID and possibly restart before bankruptcy that they were going to talk about moving to Red Bull if they could get that sorted out. Now, it never happened. League went under. But if you do things the right way, and you also have to keep in mind now, ever since DC's gone to Audi and the MLS has learned what happens when you put a football team in one of their venues, you're going to have to work closely with the MLS and the venue. They're a little more particular now about, hey, can you put paint on the field? What can you do to the turf? We got to play our guys first. We're the bigger sport. But if you work those details out, I feel like you'd have a better experience and possibly, I would argue, a better venue rate than playing over in East Rutherford. I mean, that's just part of it, too. I think it's going to be a much more affordable venue than where we're playing, where the Giants and Jets are playing.
Yeah, I hope it happens. I hope they can figure out a way to bring a team back here to New York, New Jersey. Let's switch gears and go indoors to Arena Football 1, and we've had some big announcements from them with expansion, and they've broken away all the teams that were in the Arena Football League last year, came over to the new Arena Football 1 while the Arena Football League goes through their issues that they had, a lot of financial problems last year, but now the teams that survived out of that make up most of this Arena Football 1. They've added some new teams, and they've got great management over there now, obviously, with Jeff Fisher, the former Titans head coach, is involved. Jerry Kurz, who is one of the founding fathers of the original Arena Football League, is heavily involved. So is Gary Compton. Jared Widman is the president of the league. And it just seems like for the first time in a long time, when you're talking about arena football, that there is finally a very, very more than competent group of people that are running it. And for someone like myself who spent 8 years working in the original Arena Football League, and it was sad to see that go because that was the best job I ever had in my life, was working those 8 years in the Arena Football League. It is finally nice to feel at least that there is a semblance of hope that this league can survive because of the people who are now running it.
Look, this effort started in as you and I know, a very awkward situation last season and back in the April through June stretch of the reboot of what was the Arena Football League. And you and I both know insane history and whatnot, but the launch of this one, it was complete and utterly biffed. The people leading this were not up to snuff. So, the owners took charge, basically, is what happened. They had a commissioner and a president and CEO of the league that were not doing their job. They basically said, screw it, we're going to take a hold of some key members. Jeff Fisher was already part of the Nashville Cats at the time. He gets mounted as the interim commissioner, gets announced commissioner during the championship game or Arena Bowl 33 this past July. Meanwhile, Jerry Kurz they bring in, and you're absolutely right, founding father. If you want anyone that to me signifies business sense of how this industry works and instantly will tell people, hey, we're trying to fix this. We mean business and we're going to do this the right way. You bring in someone like that has been a commissioner, has been a founding member, has been at the helm of the sport's birth since the beginning back in the late 80s. So, it was the right call. Gary Compton coming in as director of player personnel, former player out there in Milwaukee Mustangs and whatnot as well, had a great career in this league. And I've been fortunate enough to be on calls with him, just kind of helping build this behind the scenes at times. And he's been doing a great job. Like all these people I've talked to, they are doing a really wonderful job getting this moving and forward. And now we have a schedule out that came out just a little over a week ago. Things are progressing very rapidly right now in a very good fashion. 12 teams to start the season. The original 8 coming back, as you talked about, in Nashville, Albany, We also got Southwest Kansas and Dodge City, Salina with the
Don't
Liberty.
forget the champion Billings Outlaws.
Oh, I was definitely going to not forget. How could I? How could I? You got the Billings Outlaws, Orlando Predators, you name it. And then they added, like I said, 4 different teams. You got one in Wilkes-Barre right down the road a little bit too, that to announce a name. But then you also have, of course, in my neck of the woods, the Arizona Bandits.
Yep.
You have, of course.
And by the way, congratulations are in order to you because you're going to be doing their media relations.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, I've been honestly, before I jumped on here, I was already doing some work for them. So getting going. So no, the fun never stops. We're trying to launch this thing the right way. But yeah, I mean, it's across the country. It's a nationwide arena league, which is something you can't say. The other competition in this space, very regionalized. This one's truly a regional-based league, and the way they're doing the scheduling, I'll tell you, Peter, very smart. It's 14 weeks. You got 12 games. 9 of those games will be division games. You play your division opponents 3 times in a season, and it's region-based divisions for the 3.
Yeah, I think they've done a lot of things the right way. Again, just like the UFL, and even more so, hoping that the Arena Football 1 can figure out a way to bring a team back here to the New York, New Jersey area. I mentioned before I worked for the Dragons for 8 years. I think they're going to have, at least for the short term, I think it's going to be a problem getting a team back here on Long Island because we don't know what the future of the Nassau Coliseum is going to be. For those around the country who are watching that don't know, the Sands Casino has put in a proposal to build a resort on the Coliseum site. Whether the Coliseum is part of that, we just don't know yet. And I think UBS Arena, the new home of the Islanders, is probably going to be a little too expensive for a niche sport like arena football. So I think the Coliseum would be the best option if it survives. Beyond that, then I don't really know if there'll be a viable option, in New York and New Jersey. Maybe they can go to Bridgeport, Connecticut, which is not too far away, but there really isn't that 6, 7, 8,000 seat arena in this area for them to comfortably put a successful team here.
Yeah, and it's a different ball game than it was in, say, 2006, 2005. Especially when we're talking 2005, they were on NBC Sports.
Yeah.
And we're talking at a regular, and regular 10,000 seat games across the country, and really considered a possible next big sport. They were competing with the MLS at the time.
Oh yeah,
to be America's next big sport. It just didn't work out. And what happened ever since is that it's been kind of in this almost a reset period. Arena Football League did come back as AF1 and then rebranded to Arena Football League. By the way, there's your reference to AF1, the reason why it chose that name. And it's just been kind of trying to find its footing again. So different monies, different budgets, different whatnot. But AF1 setting out to try and get that path back to what we want to see it as its glory days. It's going to be hard. It really is. It's a different sports scene than ever before, different media scene than ever before, but you got to start somewhere. And they have, like you mentioned to start off, it's the right people at the right time to do this. It's now or never to get the sport to that relevancy again.
Yeah, I think finally they're on the right track. I think they have the right people, and as long as they continue doing things the right way. I was very impressed. I had to spend a couple of days with Jeff Fisher when the Arena Bowl was taking place at American Dream, and I know how much he's invested in this now and loves the sport, has fallen in love with the sport from his role with the Nashville Cats. So I really think that they are on the right track. Zach, I can't thank you enough for, at the last minute, spending some time with us here to talk about spring football. I think there's a lot of great things on the horizon with the United Football League and with Arena Football 1, and hopefully more announcements to come that'll make fans of spring football very, very happy.
Appreciate the time, Peter, and always will do it for you, man. One of the best in the biz. Thanks.
I appreciate that. Zach Keilman from Pro Football Newsroom and also the host of the UFL podcast. When we come back here on the show, we're going to have the Sports Bash Media poll question of the day. I'm going to talk about a great football story from over the weekend. And even if I wasn't involved with this, or my family wasn't involved with this, it'd still be a cool story just because of the nature of what had happened. But it was a wonderful Saturday in Danbury, Connecticut. We'll talk about that, and at least it's something nice to talk about with football. Like it brings a smile on my face to talk about that because we don't have to talk about the Jets for a few minutes or the Giants. We're coming back with more right after this. Schwartz.
And I'm Vinny Tickets.
We want to take a moment to talk about our fantastic sponsor, the Embassy Diner.
Embassy Diner has been a beloved staple in the restaurant industry for over 50 years. And the great thing about it is when you walk through the door, you're not a customer, you are family. Every visit promises to be filled with warmth, love, and respect.
And here's an extra treat. If you mention Sports Bash during your visit, you enjoy a free dessert on the Embassy Diner.
Come on down to the Embassy Diner, where great food and great company are always on the menu.
Visit the Embassy Diner, located at 4280 Hempstead Turnpike in Bethpage.
In 1982, the Marty Lyons Foundation began with a single heartfelt mission: to bring moments of joy and hope to critically ill children by granting wishes that make their dreams come true. Since that day, we have touched the lives of over 8,500 families, raising over $43 million to grant wishes that offer a beacon of light in their darkest times. These precious wishes cost an average of $6,700 each, and your support is crucial to our mission. Every donation, big or small, makes a difference. And with 76 cents of every dollar going directly to supporting our families, you can rest assured your support truly changes lives. The Marty Lyons Foundation operates 11 chapters in 14 states now, working tirelessly to reach as many children as we can. This dedication goes hand in hand with our commitment to transparency and accountability, earning us top ratings on Charity Navigator, Great Nonprofits, and Candid, which underscores our dedication to those we serve. The Marty Lyons Foundation grants wishes to children ages 3 to 17. And what really makes this foundation so special is our willingness to grant not only a first wish, but also consider a second wish to a child who continues to battle a life-threatening illness. We stand by these children, offering them hope and strength through the power of dreams, giving our children the courage to wish for more.
What's your purpose in life? Is your purpose in life to live in the big house and drive the nice car? No. Your purpose in this life is to make it a little bit better for those that follow and realize that we live for today to see a better tomorrow.
Visit MartyLyonsFoundation.org to learn more and get involved. In 1982, the Marty...
Welcome back to Sports Bash, presented by TicketBash.com. 516-465-3990 is the number to call. I'm Peter Schwartz. Thank you for spending part of your Monday, a special Monday edition of Sports Bash. Because of the Thanksgiving holiday this week, we're on today at 3 o'clock, and then we're going to be on again on Monday at 1 o'clock. So normally we're on Tuesdays and Thursdays at 1 o'clock here on the Governor's Comedy Club podcast page at YouTube. But because of the holiday this week, we are on, today we're on at 3 o'clock and Wednesday at 1. And we've got a great show on Wednesday. I'm going to tell everybody about it a little bit later on, more about it. But I can tell you there'll be a musical guest on Wednesday. So you've already heard me talk about it, but we'll give you the whole kit and caboodle coming up in a little bit. But 516-465-3990 is the number to call. We're going to go to the phone lines. Welcome in our good friend Glenn from Flushing. Glenn, it's Peter. How are you, my friend? Did we lose Glenn? I think we lost him. Glenn, call back. Call back. Please call us back. It sounds like pleading for the man to call back. 516-465-3990. But we do have a big show coming up on Wednesday. We'll tell you about it in a little bit. While we wait for Glenn or other people to call into the show at 516-465-3990, let me give you the Sports Bash Media poll question of the day. It is presented by Living Legends Memorabilia and Collectibles in Rockville Center, Long Island's go-to store for sports, entertainment, and political memorabilia since 1996. They're also available for charity auctions. Give Warren a call at 516-826-4000. We are pleased to have Living Legends on as our newest sponsor. Remember, we do post a new poll question every weekday on the Sports Bash Media X/Twitter page. And here is today's question. It is for Giants fans. Should the Giants fire general manager Joe Shane, and head coach Brian Daboll. 2 choices, yes or no. We made it very simple for you this week with the poll question, or for this day with the poll question. Yes or no, should the Giants fire Joe Shane and Brian Daboll? We'll have another Sports Bash Media poll question. You can find one every day on X Twitter. We'll have another one for you on the show on Wednesday. We have fixed the phone issue. I don't even think it was an issue. I think it was just, I don't know. Stuff happens, right?
The problem is right here.
Oh, I don't want to blame anybody. Tony is taking the blame for it. So let's go to Glenn in Flushing. Glenn, you're up first here on the show today. How you doing, my friend?
All right. How you guys doing? How's everything?
Doing great, Glenn. Before I forget, maybe you'll call the show also on Wednesday if there's time. But before I forget, very happy Thanksgiving to you and your family.
Oh, thank you. You beat me to the punch. I was going to wish you and Tony a very happy Thanksgiving and all the best for a happy and healthy 25, man. I can't believe it.
I can't believe we're almost there yet. But, yes, very thankful to have a great producer like Tony Walker, especially when he hits the wrong button.
and congratulations on the ECAC championship bowl game win for your son.
Yes, we're gonna get to that in a little bit, but yes, it was a very, very enjoyable Saturday afternoon in Danbury. A great season by the boys and men, actually. Well, you can call them boys. I don't think they'd be offended by that, but yeah, great job by them all season long, and it culminated with a real nice win. So that was really awesome to see.
That's fantastic. Now I'm just hoping Cortland can run the table again. We'll see.
Yeah. So what do you think? When I saw you're calling in, I'm like, I got to ask him because your son goes to Cortland and they are defending Division III national champions of college football. And I'm. I've got a couple other people that I know that are in and around the Cortland program, so I know there's a lot of optimism. What do you think? Can they repeat?
Well, it's a tough thing. They did lose some quality players who were in NFL training camps this past summer, but I can see they got the quarterback back. This kid's incredible. Mm-hmm. My son describes him as a little mini Allen.
Zach
like
Boys, right?
Buffalo.
Zach Boys.
Yeah, Zach Boys. That's
so
right.
His father. Wait a minute. His father was the head coach of Buffalo State when I was there.
That's correct, right?
Yes.
That's right. Was it when you went there?
Yeah. He got hired in the middle of my 4 years there.
Wow. Are they still called the Bengals?
They are the Bengals, yes, but now they're Buffalo State University, not Buffalo State College.
Oh, very good. I don't want to jinx it, but I hope we get to the semifinals at least. But I'm hoping to go to the playoff game one of these weekends because they should be home. They had a bye this past weekend, and we'll see what happens. But I have a question for you and Tony. Right now, what a great NFL weekend. Who do you guys see? What are your predictions right now at this point in the season? I'm praying for a Buffalo and Detroit Super Bowl. That would be great for the NFL, great for those two cities, those fans. What do you guys have?
Glenn, if you asked me that question before yesterday, I would have told you Detroit and I would have told you Kansas City. But I think after watching Kansas City lose last week and having them struggle against Carolina yesterday, if the Bills can continue to stay on fire in the AFC, I think you could be looking at Buffalo and Detroit.
Yeah. What does Tony have?
Tony, he's asking you a question too. Do you want to answer it? Do you just want to toe the company line?
Yeah, I'll toe the line. I rely on the expert over here,
Tony,
Mr. Schwartz.
Listen, when the Mets season is over and the Islanders aren't playing, Tony goes to sleep.
Yeah.
Tony goes to sleep.
And Pete, now that we're at the quarter mark of the NHL season, you see us, Barzell comes back. We get our other couple of guys back. We're going to make a run?
I hope so, Glenn. I don't think we've seen enough of the whole team together to formulate a strong opinion, but just the one thing that still bothers me is the way that they play the third period. Now, it didn't hurt them on Saturday. They wound up holding on to win. We'll see what happens this week with a couple of games, but it's still that third period holding the lead really annoys me and concerns me. And I don't know what Patrick Waugh can come up with as the magic potion to stop that. But, really, really good teams who take the lead into the third period generally find a way to win most of them, and the Islanders find ways to let them slip away. And I was already at one of those this year against the Devils. So it's rough. Let's see what happens if they get everybody back. And, excuse me, maybe maybe Lou's got something up his sleeve to improve the roster, but we'll see what happens. Glenn, I got to let you go because we're up against it, okay?
All right, Pete, all the best. Take care. Happy Thanksgiving.
Thank you, Glenn. Same to you and your family. Glenn touched on this, and this is how I'm going to close the show today. And obviously for people who follow the show and follow me on social, you know how much my family means to me, especially my kids and their sports adventures. And, a year ago, my older son Bradley was getting ready to graduate. He was finishing up his senior football season and looking to graduating high school, and had committed to Long Island University, where he had an offer, a Division I offer. And yada, 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 as they said on Seinfeld, things happened, and he decommitted from LIU and decided to go to Western Connecticut State, a Division III school in Danbury, Connecticut. And let me tell you something, that everything was handled first class with that school, with that coach, Joe Loft, the head coach, the whole staff. The way that they, recruited Bradley initially, and the way that they took him after he decided to make a change and go back there, they welcomed him back with open arms. And what a season the Wolves had. 9-2. They fell a little bit short of making the Division III playoffs, but on Saturday, they played an ECAC bowl game, the Asa S. Bushnell Bowl, and they hosted it against Alfred, and they rocked it on Saturday, winning 45-14. Congratulations to head coach Joe Loft, the entire staff, and for my son Bradley, it just culminated a great freshman year of college. We were so happy to for my wife Cheryl and myself and our younger son Jared to be a part of it all season long and watch this team get to the point. And I'll tell you something, as much as I am happy for Bradley, we're looking at pictures too from the game on Saturday. A very special group of senior players that are going to be leaving WestCon, and to see them go out with a championship, granted not the Division III championship, but still a bowl game that meant a lot to each and every player on that team. And for them to raise that trophy at the end of that game was just absolutely incredible. It was fun to see. It was cold, but it was fun to see. So congratulations to everybody involved, and let's see what they can do for an encore. The returning players, and they learned a lot from the senior players, and we'll see what happens next year as they go to a brand new conference. They not a new conference, new conference for WestCon. They're moving to the Landmark Conference next year, so we'll see how things go with that. But congratulations to the WestCon Wolves on winning a bowl game and finishing their season 9-2 so strong. Extremely proud of my son Bradley for dealing with a lot of nonsense through the recruiting process from certain schools, but certainly not from WestCon. And great landing spot for him at WestCon, and had a great winning year. By the way, and I recognized this even before the game on Saturday, and I was joking with Bradley about it when we went up to the game on Saturday. I said, you realize even with 8 wins, even if they didn't win that game, and I had a good feeling they were going to win the game, but even with 8 wins, he had more wins in his freshman year of college than he did in the 2 years of varsity football that he played at high school combined. So, which is pretty good. That's not a bad freshman season to have, to play, to start as a freshman and win a bowl game. That was pretty cool to see. Anyway, that will wrap it up for this edition of a special Monday program of Sports Bash. Coming up on Wednesday at 1 o'clock. Remember, no Tuesday and Thursday show this week. Wednesday at 1 o'clock. Going to be joined by Mike Del Giudice from Billy Joel's band. He will join us via Zoom for a segment. It'll be great to catch up. He's got a couple of big shows coming up at Mulcahy's this weekend, so we'll talk to him about that and touring with Billy Joel, the end of the residency, all that good stuff. We'll talk to him about also New Year's Eve at UBS Arena. Schwartz family still hoping to be involved in that somehow. We're trying to get the right people involved. We'll see if we can make our way into the building again like we did last year. Also, North Shore High School head football coach Dan Agavino will be in studio to join to talk about the Nassau Senior Bowl on Thanksgiving morning at Mitchell Field. I'll also be joined by Patricia Traina, who covers the Giants for SI, and she is also the host of the Locked On Giants podcast. That's coming up on Wednesday. That'll do it for this edition of Sports Bash, presented by Ticketbash.com, and also Ryan Anthony's Heating and Air Conditioning Service. Also, thanks to Tony Walker, everyone here at Governor's Comedy Club in Levittown. Sports Bash presented by Ticketbash.com. And Ryan Anthony's Heating Service. Sports Bash is sponsored by the Embassy Diner in Bethpage, by Bearcat Building Service, the Marty Lyons Foundation, and Collaborate Studios. For our entire crew, I'm Peter Schwartz. Thanks for watching. See you Wednesday at 1. Have a great day, everyone.